So today is January 6th, 2022. A year ago today, I was resting in bed having a polio flare and on oxygen with a respiratory event when I get a text from my sissy that, am I watching the news? I said no, I was trying to recover. And so I turned the news on, and in front of me is terrorists attacking the capital of the United States. The capital. My capital. Your capital. Everybody who lives in the United States capital. Not just one person's, it's all of our capital. And I yelled for my husband Al, and he come flying in, and he just couldn't believe that the bully had convinced these people that they could do this, that it was in their rights to do this. You don't have a right to destroy the Capitol. You can protest. I mean, that's legitimate. But this was insurrection. This was homegrown terrorists who took it upon themselves to destroy historic parts of the Capitol and destroy pieces of a building that we've all pretty much honored and everything. And it was so sad. My husband hugged me and said, oh my God, I can't believe that we are seeing the destruction of our country. That this person, our former president, was actually enjoying it. When he was at the White House, they said he was enjoying it and everything because as a bully, they rely on fear. And he had convinced these people that there were all kinds of things that were done and which weren't. It's been proven. And by the way, it was proven not only by Democratic research, but it was also proven by Republican. I mean, Mitch McConnell even investigated whether our voting was legitimate or not. And one of the things that I thought that the president said today, I really appreciated was, Al and I both said, well, if the election was invalid, that means that both parties are invalid, not just one, but both. I mean, there's also the independents and a couple other parties soon. But basically, if the election is invalid, that means that nobody was president, that there was no party member that was reelected. So this lie that the election was not valid, the rationale of it is completely nuts. But then again, the former president is nuts as far as I'm concerned. But what he did is he convinced and manipulated people to make their fear levels so out of control that they were willing to do horrific things. I mean, police officers were killed, Capitol Police died, there were injuries, there were even some of the protesters that died because of it. They all relied on a habitual liar who took great pride in using fear. He was always suing people, and the man was known for bankruptcy after bankruptcy and not doing honorable business. And yet, for some reason, he tapped into the fear of people who really thought he was telling them the truth. And then he tapped into the groups that just wanted to control. They didn't even want a president. They didn't want Republican or Democratic or any party. They just wanted to do a coup, is basically what it was. And I mean, I found that there were even people in my life that I had loved and cherished and honored for over 50 years who believed what the former president said, and I've mourned the loss of them. I managed to have a stroke that a year ago from the shock of watching my country um, being terrorized into a fascist state, or attempting to turn it into a fascist state. It's one of the things that I never ever thought I'd witness. My wonderful husband was so enraged to see our capital being attacked, especially considering his family's honoring during World War II in Korea. In fact, his Uncle Al, who he was named after, was killed in the Korean War, and yet he was also trying to save me from my stroke. I don't know. In history, we had the Pearl Harbor attack, but those were not homegrown terrorists, and we pulled together as a country. 9/11, again, was not homegrown terrorists, but this is homegrown terrorists, which means that even now, people still believe the horrific lies, even though they're being shown evidence that there's really, we've had, the election was, as the president even stated today, the most counted, the most verified election. And poor Georgia, they had to go through it 3 times. I mean, here in Michigan, we went through it 2 or 3 times. It's very, they show that in history that power corrupts and ultimate power destroys, which is pretty much how Hitler got people. He fed on their fear. He fed them different beliefs, and he fed them lies just like the former president did to us. And the real frightening thing of that is that his supporters still believe it. But even more frightening is the fact that they didn't give it any rational questioning. They never asked, was it possible that maybe the elections were legitimate? Was the hatred in our country so we couldn't even poke it. We couldn't even, it was impermeable. Could we not see past the politics? Because at this point, it wasn't even politics that was involved. Because, like I say, some of these people didn't even care. They didn't want a president. They didn't want a government. They wanted to control it themselves. They were not party people. They weren't Democratic or GOP. I mean, they even admitted it, But I really appreciated that President Biden brought up the fact that if the election was false, then that would mean that everybody would be out of the government. There wouldn't be a government because those that were elected would no longer be valid. Those that were reelected were not going to be valid. So, I mean, how much evidence is required, I wonder? I really wonder what it takes for people to actually know the truth. And, it really was basically a 2-party election, and it was declared, and if it was declared a fraud, like Al and I talked about it, well, then both parties lost. There is no winner. You can't win if it's a fraud. I mean, there's no, and according to the Constitution, he would be out of the office anyway because, we don't have anything in our Constitution that allows you to, keep going if there's no, this thing is called a Constitution. And if you read it, you'll find out that there's there's nothing in there that says, well, if the election is a fraud, the old guy stays in. That's not how it runs in this country. You know, people forget that Benjamin Franklin said, this is a democratic republic if we can keep it. Well, you know, we've had problems before, but we've never, even the Civil War, they were not attacking our capital. I mean, they wanted to win, but they didn't come in and destroy our property and everything. And I believe they all should serve time. I believe they all need to pay back for all the damage they did. I really, because if I did something wrong and I have to pay the consequences, the rule of law states, you know, if I commit a crime, I have to pay the time. So I think that what we need to do is stop being so political and look at the reality of what went on. And it's there. I mean, they show it on TV, it's on YouTube, it's on Twitter, it's on all media, it's on print media. It's all there. I mean, and when they brag about what they were doing in the White House during the time, and to the point that even the former president's son and daughter were trying to convince him to stop it, you know, it tells you that the American public has been duped, a large percentage of them, and they really need to start looking at themselves. You know, like I noticed that there was some people were saying that Harrison Biden failed to promise to stop the virus. Excuse me. The reality is the virus is basically invisible, but Harrison Biden did provide us with the tools. We've got the vaccines, we have the tests. You know, the tools were to get vaccinated, to wash your hands, do social distance, wear a mask. I mean, I don't know how people think it's such a big deal. I mean, if you choose not to, then the consequences are you get the virus. And this new version is pretty intense, and it's super contagious, and it's really showing just what the American public is, especially when we made over 1 million, more than any other nation in the world. As to calling this an anniversary, I don't know. Anniversary was for those that were foreign invaders that attacked us. To call it Remembrance Day, maybe a remembrance of today. But when it's homegrown terrorists, that means we're never safe. Because here in Michigan, we have numerous groups that have beliefs that they're in control. Maybe we all just need to step back and look at where we're getting our opinions from and how did we find them, and are they really something that we believe, or are we believing something somebody else believes? I hope all of you have a blessed day today. Bye.